Before we begin the session, we are pleased to announce the winners in our raffle draw.
Very good naman. Thank you.
Hello, everybody, and a very good afternoon. Let's settle in, settle down. I see that everybody's had a good lunch, and I hope your energies are still up. And you've seen the names of the winners, of the raffle winners. I hope you've seen your names. If you haven't, tough luck, maybe the next round. All right, so I hope you are fueled up for our afternoon session. Let's brace for this. More sessions coming up, more of the deep dives into the gamut of topics governing navigating disruption. And that title is coming up, Enterprise Priorities for a Resilient Future. The key word here is enterprise. We want to make sure that businesses here are able to adapt and be resilient to what's up ahead. So afternoon session kicks off with the most timely topic. We have two things to consider in this volatile and complex age. It is disruption and opportunity. If there is one thing that stands in the center of both disruption and opportunity, it is technology. Now, we've talked about that this afternoon, just a tiny bit, but we're going to deep dive this afternoon. Artificial intelligence, or AI, has emerged as a defining catalyst, reshaping how enterprises create value, manage risks, and engage with society. The rapid acceleration of AI development mirrors that same uncertainty seen in geopolitics and global markets, demanding agility, foresight, and ethical governance from today's leaders. Understanding and harnessing this technology responsibly is now essential to maintaining trust and competitiveness in a fast-evolving world. So against this backdrop, the next session delves into how organizations can integrate AI in ways that balance innovation with accountability and long-term sustainability. So let's talk about racing with AI for session 2 of AFES 2025. Again, let me remind everybody to send us your questions for the open forum. Got the QR codes right there. Capture that. And if you find that there's anything so compelling that you got to write a question, please do so before you forget it. And again, at the end, before the end of the session, you'd have a chance to raise your hands as our moderator will accommodate that. Our moderator for this session is a physicist and machine learning scientist, educator, entrepreneur, and technology advisor for various enterprises and organizations. He is also a NAST academician who holds an Aboitiz chair in data science and a professorship at the AIM. He is also AIM's head of the Aboitiz School of Innovation, Technology, and Entrepreneurship. Under ASITE, it is also an advanced analytics industry-facing research lab, the Analytics, Computing, and Complex Systems Lab, where he is the executive managing director. Our moderator, Dr. Chris Monterola.
Stay. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. We live in a moment where technology races faster than our institutions can keep up, where innovation, disruption, and inequality exist. A recent Harvard study covering 285,000 firms with about 200 million resumes shows that employment has reduced the number of junior positions by more than 14%, since the introduction of the generative AI, but increased senior positions by 23% that are not yet optimally replaceable by artificial intelligence. AI, or artificial intelligence, The defining quality technology of our age is rewriting what it means to work, compete, and even be human. Today's dialogue, Racing with AI, challenges us to ask, how do we run this race without losing our humanity or leaving our most vulnerable behind? As geopolitical tensions rise and economies become fragmented, AI is no longer just a tool of innovation. It is a lever of power, influence, and identity. Governments around the world view it as a nation-defining capability, the way we look at the strength of the army or the presence of oil as a nation-defining capability for power and influence before. From algorithmic bias to agentic AI capable of autonomous decisions, from the promise of productivity to the peril of inequality, the choices we make now will shape not only the competitiveness of our enterprises, but the quality of human life as well. As we stand at this pivotal intersection of innovation and responsibility, we've assembled a distinguished panel of thought leaders who are shaping the AI landscape from multiple vantage points, from the enterprise to the academic to the innovation and the PPP projects. Each will bring unique expertise in navigating this complex terrain where technological capability meets societal impact. Allow me to introduce our panelists who will guide us through today's conversation. First up, to share his perspective on AI's implication for economic structures and how societies can effectively govern transformative technologies, our first panelist is national scientist, Professor Dr. Raul Fabella. Good afternoon, sir. He is an honorary professor at the Asian Institute of Management and a member of the National Academy of Science and Technology. He is advising the president in matters relating to science and technology, and his expertise spans welfare economics, game theory, and the impact of weak governance on policy making. He is known for his influential publications in leading economics journals such as the Journal of Public Economics and International Economic Review, and for his vocal analysis of tax policy, public expenditure, and exchange rate issues in the Philippine context. When Dr. Fabella speaks, everyone listens. His current interest is solutions to collective action problems and the overcoming of the free riding problem and the rule of corruption in the failure of solutions. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, let's welcome Dr. Raul Fabella, National Scientist Raul Fabella. Our second panelist is the founder of Night Owl AI. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Mae Yu Lamentillo. Night Owl AI is a mission-driven company that harnesses artificial intelligence to preserve endangered languages and combat digital exclusion. A proud member of the Karaya ethno-linguistic group in the Philippines, Mae is passionate about building AI systems that reflect the full spectrum of human culture, not just the dominant view. Mae earned her Juris Doctor at the UP College of Law, completed executive education in economic development at Harvard Kennedy School, and holds a Master of Science in Cities from the London School of Economics. Currently, he's pursuing his master's and PhD at Oxford University. She previously served as the Undersecretary of the Department of Information and Communications Technology, heading the Public Affairs and Foreign Relations. She was the chairperson of Build Committee and served across 4 Philippine administrations. At the heart of her work is a simple but urgent belief. Everyone deserves a voice in the digital future, especially those who have been systematically left out of it. Let's give a big round of applause to Miss Mae Yu Lamentillo. Mae Yu Lamentillo. And of course, our last panelist is the Data Science and AI Lead for Advanced Technology Center in the Philippines at Accenture, Mr. Mike Lau. Mr. Mike in Accenture is leading teams focused on data platforms, data architecture and strategy, Gen AI, and Industry X, including digital engineering and IT/OT convergence. Mike is known for his human-centric approach to AI adoption, emphasizing that successful digital transformation empowers people for productivity and creativity. Mike is also known for his leadership in establishing Accenture's generative AI studios as part of the company's $3 billion investment in data and AI. Again, let's give Mike a warm round of applause. Okay, first question, Mike. Techno-optimist or techno-pessimist?
Well, I am in technology, so I am a techno-optimist.
Okay, good. So from Accenture's vantage point, you're seeing global corporations race ahead with AI transformation. Data shows that according to IBM and MIT Sloan and IBM, only 24% realize their goal of scaling up with AI or getting ROI from AI. So beyond pilot projects and proofs of concepts, what separates firms that truly scale AI, in your opinion? What should be the mindset when you go into an AI transformation?
So, first, thank you for the question. I'll start my response by saying we also did a study, right, with our clients and the enterprises, and we found out that maybe around 30 to 40% of the companies, especially in Asia Pacific, are still in the, I would say, prototyping and prototyping experimenting stage. And maybe around 13% are the ones really getting the value of AI. And maybe two things that I would like to highlight why that's the case is, one, as you start experimenting, as companies start experimenting, they notice that they lack the data foundation, right? So AI is not going to work properly without data. Mm-hmm. And so they do lack that foundation. And the ones that we see who are, I would say, front runners are the ones who have identified that where AI can actually augment and tap the end-to-end process. It's not just I want to try a use case, I want to try this one, but it's looking at the whole value chain, if you may, right? For a company's process, be it accounting, finance, or whatever, HR, looking at that end-to-end thing to get the value of AI.
So at the very beginning, they are very clear about the problems that they would like to solve.
That's correct.
And I know that at Accenture, when you try to do this, you talk about human-centered AI, and you're the one leading it. But now we are looking at agentic AI, agentic systems. It grows. It can. So this is my question. In the future, will humans be just a bottleneck for innovation, or do you expect that these agentic systems who can think autonomously, do proactive work for you, will be the more critical part of the innovation?
Okay. Maybe I'll start by quickly defining agentic AI. So I would define agentic AI as the type of AI that doesn't just generate things, right? We had generative AI, we summarize, generate content, images. I think this AI, agentic AI, to me is more of an AI system that can act, right? I mean, it has memory, it knows who you are based from your prior question. So you give it a goal, an objective, it can execute, right? So it has memory, it can plan things. And to your question around humans, where does it come in? So anchoring back to what I mentioned earlier in the whole, let's say, enterprise, and when we see what our clients are doing, let's say we implement an agentic AI for a supply chain, right? Looking at the orders, looking at the stocks in the supply chain. So what we have found is that there are processes where AI can really autonomously do the work or do the thinking for a human, but there are also cases where there are situations where it would prompt a human. So in this case, you can call it human in the loop or on the loop, right? So at the end of the day, we believe that it's a process where humans are working with AI, and we want to call it a human plus, right? So humans understanding how to work with the machine and the AI and technology.
Okay, then. Later, I will be asking you if you're okay to have an AI boss, if you will be earning more. But as a follow-up question, maybe this is the final question for you, at least during this session. As global leaders accelerate AI innovation, and Accenture is one of the very few conglomerates, multinational companies in the Philippines here where they actually brought their R&D. almost all the other companies, the force that they have here, the workforce that they have here are mainly sales and services. How do you think can Philippine enterprises transition from merely adopting AI solution to actually becoming an AI-driven organizations that create business value impact?
So what we're doing in Accenture, right, is we serve also our clients. And so we do AI systems, we create AI systems for our clients, we advise them, we consult with them. But the one thing we're also doing is we're also training our own talent, right, on AI. We have a learning plan and a learning program for everyone. Not just, I mean, there's I would call a 101 for AI, or we call it our technology quotient, understanding what agentic AI is. But also, depending on the role that we have or the role you play in the organization, we equip you with the right tools so that you can learn, work with AI, know how to create AI. So I would say my advice would be, it's not just about the technology and adopting it. It's really also bringing in the workforce, right, to go along with the journey to make it successful.
I heard AI studios for Accenture is awesome. How many out of 800,000 are working in Accenture Philippines? Out of the total 800,000 employees worldwide?
I would say around 10% of the overall population in the Philippines.
So about 80,000. Great. Okay, now I proceed to Mae Yu Lamentillo. Mae, you've been building Night Owl AI, an enterprise born at the intersection of AI, infra, and sustainability. What do you see in the way companies and public institutions are actually using AI? Are they rushing to adopt or just trying to appear that way because of FOMO or fear of missing out?
So the president of AstraZeneca taught in our class, and he was telling us that because of artificial intelligence, they were able to accelerate the process of research insofar as drugs are concerned by 100 years already. And that this has accelerated the way we are doing things. But again, I want to take this opportunity to ask then, where do we see Philippines' future in AI? Because we're talking of a lot of multinationals creating their own AI systems. And in retrospect, we look into our own capacity and ask, where do we stand and how much AI infrastructure and capacity and skill do we need?
Okay. And tell us, if looking at all these things that you've seen in the last few years that you've been doing this AI, are there any patterns that are emerging about success and failures when they go into AI? You work in the government, you have a startup, and now you are studying AI and doing coding. You are coding yourself.
Generally, the quality of your data will reflect the quality of your artificial intelligence. So a lot of movers who go to artificial intelligence, but they are not prepared with a data backbone that is necessary, that tech infrastructure that is required, then it becomes a useless enterprise. They find themselves that it becomes too expensive, that the manpower that is supposed to absorb the technology is not ready. And so it's always good to start smaller, make it more narrow, make it more specialized, and put measurable, tangible objectives, and do not be afraid to fail and to actually reiterate your invention or your production, because that is the concept of research.
Yeah. So again, this aligns with Mike's point. No, you need to really focus on the problems that you would like to solve, however small, and have a success story. Now, from a policy-making lens, having served in the ICT and a lot of infrastructure initiatives under 4 different administrations, you are the chairperson of the Build Committee. Now, flood control po under Mae. How can we ensure that AI doesn't widen the digital divide, especially the most vulnerable communities?
So if you look at the AI landscape now, 95% of the AI infrastructure is concentrated in less than 20 countries. If you look at the languages that are in AI system, they are less than 1% of the total languages in the world. We have 7,000 languages, and artificial intelligence systems are only able to understand 180 at this stage. And these 180 languages, they have varying expertise and varying levels of knowledge. And I guess it pays to look forward. When will we start investing on our own AI infrastructure? And how many people are able to use AI? Because I believe that now, since we are entering the age of AI, access to AI becomes a human right. But we have some bottlenecks because we don't have access to affordable devices and affordable internet. And that is a prerequisite for you to be able to access artificial intelligence
Great,
also.
great. AI becomes human right. In 2001, access to information, 1 megabyte of data is already a human right in Finland. They increased it to 10 megabytes in 2010. Now, we will get back to that idea later, Anna May. But I'm interesting. I learned this from NS Raul a while ago. Language diversity, that's why it is an interesting thing, is inversely proportional to the GDP. Later, we will discuss that also and how AI can help on this one. But last question for you, Anna May. If AI can already design cities, optimize traffic, even forecast social unrest, where do you draw the line between technological foresight and digital control?
You know, again, the capacity, AI is very powerful, but it is only as powerful as the data and the values you feed to the AI systems. So you feed it good data, then it can predict whatever standards and metrics you want it to espouse. So a lot of this is controlled by who develops the artificial intelligence systems that you actually use. We were always told at London School of Economics that when you design cities, you have to design it for your children. Because if children is able to access your cities, then everyone is able to access it. Now I ask you, are you able to entrust the AI devices to your minor kids? And even in much more in Western countries, there's a lot of people who falls in love with AI systems who committed suicide because of an AI character. And now there are talks and discussions about possible bills requiring AI to disclose that they are AI systems in conversations with human. And number two, there is even a bill that wants to prohibit minors from accessing artificial intelligence systems. I guess this is an open question because how ready is society to be exposed to this very powerful AI systems? Because I think they've passed the Alan Turing test now. A lot of people, especially minor kids, are not able to differentiate whether they're talking to a human or they're talking to a computer.
Thank you. We'll get back to that, AI and human rights, in our discussion, in a crossfire discussion later. Techno-optimist or techno-pessimist?
I'm techno-agnostic.
Okay, techno-agnostic. Okay, great. So I reserved the most difficult question to, of course, to our national scientists. It should be challenging NS Raul, right? So, but first, techno-optimist or techno-pessimist?
Like many of you,
Okay.
I may be characterized as techno know nothing.
Okay.
Proudly.
So, NS Raul, from your perspective as a national scientist and economist, how is AI reshaping not just the market efficiency, but power itself? Are we seeing the rise of logarithmic rent seeker? You can explain this to them. What is the meaning of rent seeking? Where control of data and computing power mirrors old patterns of inequality.
Rent seeking is, of course, a problem in developing countries and all countries and anyway. it's collecting dividends without contributing to the inputs. And in this country, of course, it's even worse. In this country, it's collecting real monies from deliveries of ghost projects. My current concern is, as I just mentioned earlier, was collective action problems. Collective action problems, at the heart of every collective action problems is a free riding problem. Free riding problem is also related with rent seeking, in the sense that you are collecting dividends from the efforts of others. And in this case, in the case of dams that are seldom built, many people are collecting huge dividends from delivery of ghost projects. Now, what is the ghost project problem? The ghost project problem is really a reflection of a fundamental problem within every human being. And that is the conflict between the prefrontal cortex of a person and the amygdala. The amygdala is the center of passion, emotion, and anger. The prefrontal cortex is the center of decision-making for the group. So it is a conflict between I and us. And the problem with the collective action problem is always, how do you overcome the free riding problem?
Okay. So, yes, again, rent seeking is when you produce there is a proportional increase in your wealth without creating any value. But is there something that is fundamentally wrong, NS Raul, if I pre-ride with an AI? It's not human, I'm pre-ride with an AI system.
Well, if you free ride, somebody pays for it. And that somebody will have produced that quantum from this effort. So any free riding or rent seeking, whether AI or simply relationship-based, that's bad.
Okay. So if FYI for everyone here, you know that you can actually customize your chat GPT to a personality so that you don't feel that you are pre-riding AI. My chat GPT, for example, one of the character of which is our president and Dean Ji Kyung, with the same voice as Ji Kyung. Okay, so last question, NS Raul. You've spoken about weak governance as the Achilles heel of the development. In the era of agentic AI and autonomous system, how do we govern technologies that may one day make decisions faster and even more effectively than humans?
My feeling is that eventually, hopingly, we can replace all human decision-making with agentic AIs. Now, all the lawyers here will, of course, object to that. Because the prescription simply says that everyone who aspires to be a judge should go through what I call castration. You have to accept to be castrated. In the past, in the past, civilizations, people of authority were subjected to castration.
To remove
They're-
your desire, is that the
They're
idea?
called, they are
To remove
called
your desire.
eunuchs. And the reason is this reduces the conflict between the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala. This, in a sense, celebrates the prefrontal cortex in any decision-making problem. And so, when I say that lawyers or lawyers to be or judges to be should be subjected to castration,
Amygdala.
what I'm saying is you are improving the likelihood that decision making will be closer to the prefrontal cortex rather than to your amygdala. Now that is a lesson from the past, but how about a lesson from the future? The lesson from the future is that judges may be replaced by agentic
AI.
AIs. The important example is, I don't know if you've heard of this, is Star Trek and Mr. Spock. You know Star Trek, and you know Mr. Spock. Mr. Spock is completely governed by logical ethics. Mr. Spock is from the planet Vulcan, where they do not have, I think they probably did not have the amygdala. So you put Mr. Spock as a judge in Davao, he will not be beholden to the Dutertes. He will not be driven by fear. He will not be driven by a 45-degree pistol in front of his desk. That is what I call the SPAC strategy.
Thank you for that, NS Raul. Good thing I'm not a lawyer. No, I don't have to go into that. Okay, and we will go back to that later. Questions whether should we have now a representative elected coming from a purely AI environment, etc. Later. But now we start with the crossfire. This time around, any one of you can answer the questions that I will be asking. Let's start with an idea about the race for relevance. So this is the first race, the race for relevance. We've talked about AI and inequality, but there's another race unfolding, the race for relevance in the global economy. If the world's AI future is being written in Silicon Valley and Shenzhen, in the US and in China, how can the Philippines even write a single line, or countries like the Philippines even write a single line in that story? What must we change in policy, education, or ambition so our companies, again, don't consume AI but create it? Maybe Mike, you can get this question again.
Okay. So to be, I would say, relevant in this AI era in the Philippines, I think there's probably 2 to 3 things we need to do, right? I think number one, we need to have the right infrastructure or invest in the right infrastructure. It was mentioned earlier, right, that we need to have, let's say the compute power or AI infrastructure, the network, access to internet. I think that's fundamental so that everyone can have access, right, and we can do our own thing.
So when you say invest, government invest to this infrastructure?
Could be government, could be private, but at least part of that could also be investing in our, I would say, sovereign AI, meaning realizing that our data is our natural resource for us, for our country, and we want to keep it here, right? I think that's one. 2, I would say we need to have policies that support and aid, R&D, right, in AI. So it's not about prohibiting the use or limiting the use, but of course, managing and making sure that R&D exists, supporting people creating these new AI products, and making sure we have the right policies to support, especially with responsible AI, making sure it's fair, it's explainable, and all of these things. And I think the number three, I think we should invest in people, right? Education. How can we have the next batch of students, the upcoming, graduates, right, be relevant in this age? So we need to invest more of that with the talent as well.
Okay, so infra, R&D, and then the last one is on education. Do you want to add to that, Anna Mae?
My stance has always been that we have to build our own AI capacity. And it usually starts in the most fundamental, which is education. Our researchers on artificial intelligence provided with the GPUs that they need to be able to undertake AI research. Our young scientists or our young startup founders able to commit mistake and do the experiment over again. Because artificial intelligence will be very new in the country. And for it to blossom, you don't need just one or two experts. You would need a lot of people in the room working together to create, an AI system that we could all be proud of. It starts with digitizing our data, archiving our texts. A lot of the data in the Philippines are not yet even in digital form. I think that we need to start investing in digitizing all the data corpora and to create corporas in our own national languages. We have a lot of text in English. We have more text in English than in Tagalog because most of our research papers are published in English. But we need to have enough data to be able to be understood by AI systems. And as of now, a lot of our languages are slowly disappearing. 45% are already considered endangered, and 2 have already died insofar as the Philippine context is concerned. And while we can use artificial intelligence to preserve languages and to train them, we would need the very basic, which is data. And so, yeah.
Digitization.
Digitization, investment in education.
And data sovereignty. I know that this is something that is important to you too. Again, language equals cultural context. And when you are training an AI, that's very important. How about data sovereignty? That this data developed proudly coming from this country. What your thoughts on this?
Yeah, we've been talking yesterday about data sovereignty and how we feel that this is important to store our data in the Philippines. And while we think that it's completely necessary to start building a fully functional data center, if we are to start the AI revolution, we have to go step by step and to ensure that all core components are in it. But if you have a data center, we would also need to focus on energy, food security, because now you don't want water going to data centers taken away from people who actually need it to survive. So it's a very complicated and complex problem, but we have to start somewhere.
And add to that, our energy is produced spontaneously. So if there's a peak in a data center, we will have a problem with such. Now, different regions are taking divergent paths when it comes to AI. The EU, the European Union, actually looks at this with strict governance. The US, it's market-led. And for the Asian region, it's essentially a state-driven innovation. Every regions in Asia, they have different ideas on how to focus on this one. Will this divergence lead to a fragmented AI ecosystems, or can we realistically expect global norms to emerge? And who would enforce them? Maybe I'll give this, maybe you can start with this conversation, Raul.
This is not an easy question
Yeah,
to
definitely.
address. I will let my other panelists address this question.
Okay. And Raul is pass. Anna.
I'll try to take a stab. So I think now the next phase would be AI sovereignty and data estates. that a lot of countries will want to own their own AI systems, that their military will be tied to their own AI systems, and most of their functioning economies will be tied into their own AI systems. And the countries who invested early into the AI game would have a very huge advantage insofar as AI sovereignty and data sovereignty is concerned. But it shouldn't stop us from starting now.
To your point, most of the recent unicorns are actually in defense. And again, very critical, data sovereignty. Yes, NS Raul.
I think that we first have to fix our compute. In other words, it's already being said that China will eventually develop, will dominate the AI universe. And the reason is power is cheap. It is becoming the case that in order to dominate AI, you also have to dominate power source. And China is moving in the direction of cheap power. It's ironic that cheap power could be the source of domination in information capacity. The Philippines, I think, we have to start somewhere. But you realize that the Philippine power cost is very high. And that has, of course, many effects. And one cause of the Philippines being very high is, of course, the fact that we are fragmented and archipelagic. The other is policy. We have decided as a people that we should subsidize power for the poor households. And to do that, we don't use the general taxation. We use a high cost to our large establishments. So strangely, the power cost to our large establishments is the highest in the region.
Yep, we are.
And so we have been saying that if we have to subsidize the poorest of the poor, we should use the state resources. And second, if you can use state resources, you should transfer the subsidy from the manufacturing sector towards the non-manufacturing sector. And non-manufacturing sectors kasi, they don't have to compete with the rest of the world. McDonald's only competes with another restaurants. But if you are Mamacita, that you export half of your products to Europe, then you will have to compete with people who are also exporting to Europe, whose power cost may actually be cheaper. So our recommendation is very simple. Exempt manufacturing from the capacity, the duty to subsidize the poor households. Transfer that to the government or transfer that to the non-traded goods sector, like the Ayala firms, or and immediately, if you do that, you will have about 15% less power cost for manufacturing sector.
Oh,
Well, they may not be AI, but they will be more efficient relative to the rest of the world.
yeah. Thank you for that comment, NS Raul. And again, it goes back to the purpose of the government, which is essentially to serve the marginalized people. Now, my question is related to that. The next question I have for you is related to that and to all of you. If poverty is partly a function of powerlessness. Again, we're talking about power, but it's a different type of power. Can AI truly empower, or will it simply concentrate power in a fewer, smarter hands? Are we comfortable living in a world where a few entities or few enterprises control intelligence itself, as long as our basic needs, food, education, housing, or human development index, are met?
I will not object.
You will not object.
I will not object. I will suffer. I will tolerate monopoly of AI in very few hands. Anyway, for as long as the general public will be meeting their needs with respect to basic goods.
So imagine that. Housing, we have more than 1 million backlogs in housing in the Philippines setting. Gun. Food security may be solved by AI because of the improvement in the agriculture. Everyone can access education, and you don't have to work, because AI will be so efficient in doing such. But there should be a fundamentally some fundamentally wrong idea with that. Anna, Mike, do you want to join? Like, for example, will you be okay to have an AI boss? I go back to my earlier question. You earn more, but your boss is an AI.
Well, I go back to what I said earlier, right? Which is, we think it's a human plus AI collaboration. And meaning, as either from an enterprise point of view, that's kind of how we see it in terms of services, providing services to clients, and of course the clients in turn to their customers. Now, if I think about it from a nation's point of view, with AI, I think it empowers people, or at least the government, to serve the people better, right? And as you said, AI can be in many forms. Can be physical AI, where the robotics and everything can help with agriculture, can help with predicting certain things. So to me, it's always going to be a combination. I don't think with it's not just going to be a totally autonomous, AI system that will run by itself. I think it's always going to be, a combination with humans and machines.
But assuming that can happen, will there be something fundamentally wrong with the idea, Anna, May, that, I will just spend my time watching Netflix and I don't have to work? Will this change the way we look at the world and in the enterprises?
So I'll answer this at 2 levels. First, I feel that if we do not change status quo, that this AI paradigm will lead to a new form of digital colonization, where we will be forced to give out our data to other superpowers in exchange for AI capacity. And is this a trade-off that we are willing to do in the long term? And that is why when I think about AI systems, I always am against monopoly or duopoly, and I insist on more AI players coming on board. That's why our research is on developing a new NLP framework that will be more economical for more marginalized communities to develop their own AI systems. But we are not yet done.
Okay.
And I think that it will be a long process to go, and it is multidisciplinary. So it's not just one person in the field. So we're engaging a lot of people from very different fields coming together for this research project. But we hope and we feel that this is something that is feasible and possible. And that is the reason why I think that there should be more people engaging in AI research, but they are hindered by access to resources, not just access to affordable energy, but also GPUs. Are students really able to test their ideas into systems? And I think that that is critical. Some government support and some funding for students and researchers, I think it will make a very big difference.
Thank you again. Again, duopoly and monopoly, you mentioned that. That is one, in game theory, that is the most important factor when you do rent-seeking behavior. NS Raul, do you want to add anything on this discussion? Meaning, the meaning of life, will it change?
I am older than, twice as old as any of you guys.
I'm 49, so it's not true. Three-fourths.
I'm twice as old. And so I grew up in those times when the rhetoric was trade off. You gave up in the 70s. You gave up democracy so that you can expand your economic space. That was the rhetoric of the 70s. Unfortunately for us, we had expanded we have reduced economic space, but did not have expanded, we did not have expanded economic space, but we have reduced political space. But because of that was our bad experience. But this was not true in all of East Asia. In all of East Asia, this rhetoric was also true, but it became truer. It became a reality in a sense. Economic space was rewarded. Reduced political space was rewarded by wider political, reduced economics, advanced economic space was the reward for reduced political space. So I don't want to impose what happened to us, to the audience. In other words, perhaps there is something to the trade-off. We allow reduced economic space for expanded we allow reduced political space for expanded economic space.
But Ernest Raul, this has always been the story of humanity, right? We are driven by the past. The reason for the strict governance in the EU is because of their experience during World War II. The reason for the emergence of market-led AI in the US is because they become powerful because of their market. And in Asia, that is why it is state-driven, is because we've been operating with, again, different perspectives, okay, different experiences. So in this context, I would ask this question. If agentic AI systems can design policies, allocate budgets, and optimize supply chains better than humans, should we let them? Would you trust an AI policymaker if it eliminated corruption, but will also eliminate debate?
I will. My answer is probably because I'm older than all of you. I don't know how you will
Mike,
answer
what
that.
do you think? Anna?
I think for me to be able to trust an AI system, right? I mean, there needs to be fundamental things in place. One, we need to know how it was trained. For example, it was mentioned earlier that in the Philippines we need to have our own data. We need to make sure it's part of our sovereign AI, sovereign data. But that context, right? I mean, how do we harness that? I don't think we have that here yet. So to me, it's a matter of how do we have the right data? How do we have the right people, I would say, influence, train, test it, right? So it's able to, and to your point, when it arrives to a decision, there has to be an explanation, right? I did this because of this. And for example, in a lot of the systems that we are implementing for some of our clients, like let's say supply chain, right? Whenever there's a result, there's always going to be an explanation. And that's part of making sure that there's no bias, right? You understand where the data comes from, the logic, the rationale of how it arrived to a decision. It needs to be present, and that's part of testing, making sure it's part of governing the responsible AI piece. So yeah.
So Mike, I'm a geek myself, and geeks will have this. Now, if you tell me that the problem of AI is hallucination, they solve this problem now to some extent. Before 3 to 5% hallucination from 20+%, now down to 0.8%. And my projection is by 2027, it will be less than 0.08% hallucination. Now, this is another question that you are asking, explainable AI, etc. And I'm 100% certain that in a few years' time, we would, those who are into AI research will be able to solve this. They will be able to explain most of these things that we are asking for it to explain. So at this point, it's no longer, to me, and again, this is an opinion, it will no longer be a question whether machines can be more intelligent. The question that I would like to ask is, when do we start asking, when do humans still want to lead actually an enterprise and not just give it to AI? When do you think will that point ever appear, or?
Hirap naman ang tanong.
Okay then.
No, I'd like to start by, I guess, when you were explaining things around AI becoming more intelligent and lesser hallucinations. I mean, I think there's a lot of research also now that, as you mentioned, the accuracy of the models are really getting high, right? And so at some point, the question isn't about which model do I use, but it's about what knowledge do you want to augment it with. Because while it's trained on either public data or certain domains that are specific, let's say in the medical field or in other areas like legal. So to me, at some point, it's going to matter in terms of what domain we will use these models for, right? That's number one. And the second point here about being more comfortable, I go back to, maybe I'll start with everyone here, we studied for what, at least 18 to 20 years, right? That's how we learned, and we worked. And so we have this knowledge. And that's something unique to us, each and every one of us. A model can be trained in 2 months or less with a trillion parameters. But they can't, and the question here is, can it actually copy or understand your experiences so that you're able to predict a system? I don't think it's there yet, because they will still need human, right? So that's why I go back to, it's going to be a combination of the human plus
AI.
the AI to actually help assist, right? Making sure you're able to think of broad things. Think of all the, I would say, I don't know if you remember this book of when I was growing up, of course, it shows my age. There's a book of, was it Adventures, where you flip a page and you say, if you decide this, you go to this page. Remember this?
Choice, yes.
So it's almost like
Adventure.
you have this endless what-if scenario, right? In your machine that can help you, if I do this, what happens? So I think to me, it's more of, that will help me become a better person, a leader in my company, right? That's it.
Okay. Thank you so much for that, Mike. And now, speaking about such perspective, we go to responsible AI. Aname, I want this question to be answered by you. Many organizations now tout responsible AI initiatives, but the metrics are often vague or self-defined. If you will design a single quantitative metric for responsible AI, what would it measure? And how would you make sure that it will be comparable across sectors?
I do not believe in a singular metric. In fact, we examined a lot of the fairness frameworks that is being used right now, and there are about 200 of them, saying whether an AI is fair and responsible. And most of these fairness frameworks only talks about gender and ethnicity. Most of these AI fairness frameworks are either monolingual, bilingual, and I think that the most massive is Flores 200, which was launched by Facebook, encompassing 200 languages. But we have 7,100 languages. And what are the implications of this? It means that if your AI system is being used in Tagalog, there is no fairness framework that determines that that AI system is responsible. The examination results that they get in English is the examination result and the standard they get for the entire ecosystem, which doesn't include, and which means that the language we're using it in is not even tested. And in Tagalog, there's a lot of gender neutrals. And do we assume that it is masculine just because it is siya? These are very basic, concepts. But I feel that if we are going to truly build an AI ecosystem that's fair and responsible, then we have to include a social-linguistic dimension into this fairness framework and ensure that when an AI system is launched, that it is also examined and tested based on its own language parameters. And just to fully disclose, I am always in favor of humans in the loop of AI. I feel that the best AI system is governed by humans still. But I have a very high respect for Dr. Fabella.
Thank you for that answer. For those in the audience, at least 10 years ago, this is the case. If you Google Translate, siya ay presidente, the translation will be, he is a president. Pero pag siya ay labandera, the translation will be she is. Maybe you can check that. But again, this tells you a lot about discrimination. And in Accenture, specifically, Mike, how do you make sure that your AI system will not discriminate?
So when we build systems, we actually look at various things. We look at, as I would say, explainability, what data do you train it on. We also make sure that the testing covers everything, meaning there are coverage of testing, making sure that we don't, all the negative cases around that. And the third is making sure that it's not just about the system, right? The governance is in place, meaning, how do we have the right policies? How do we have the right access, right? Security is important because for example, if you have an AI agent which can either access another system, you need to think of it as just another user, meaning there's certain access rights that AI can have, right? It can't just have a delete access, for example. If you're trying to say, hypothetically, you have an AI system that you can ask, hey, what's my salary or my payroll? Like, it should not be able to access someone else's salary so you can ask it, right? I mean, that's a simple thing that you need to think about when you design the system.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Mike. Anything else that you'd like to add, NS Raul? No, then. At this point, we will open the floor to questions or clarifications from the audience. Please keep your questions concise, under 40 seconds, and kindly additional comment, please.
Hi. My name is Katz Navarro. I'm from FinmaEd and I'm an activist. So my question is, how does, as proponents of AI, how do you secure the worth of the underserved and the underrepresented? And if you're not, why not?
So my work is specifically on low-resource languages with complex morphologies. We're trying to make sure that we are creating an AI system that is much more fair to the people who use it, regardless of their ethnicity. We feel that AI system can be used for good and for linguistic preservation, and that once we develop a fair AI system, then we are able to preserve our national heritage, our national culture, because I think it's that, yeah.
Thank you so much. And yes, Raul, Mike, you would like to answer? I'm a techno-optimist, by the way. And the reason why I'm a techno-optimist, ma'am, is because I am living in a part of the world where 27% of our populations are suffering from stunted growth, meaning they will not be able to realize 40 to 65% of their human potential when they become an adult. 1 million backlogs in housing. But then, so AI hopefully will be able to be useful for that. Okay, there you go.
How do you,
Nakatingin pala sa akin.
as Accenture,
Kaya pala nakatingin sa'yo.
how do you
That's why,
prioritize the welfare of the underserved and the underrepresented? And if you're not, why not? Also, choose your own adventure. That's the
Yeah,
title.
tama.
Of it.
I forgot. Thank you for the choose your own adventure. I don't think I can comment about the underserved because for Accenture, we do serve, our clients, right, for the systems, right, for AI systems. So maybe that's something we can discuss offline if you need to have a follow-up discussion.
Thank you. Let's discuss that more later. Anyone else? Can you choose for me, please? There's one here and another one there. Maybe we can start with in table 4, please, maybe, or...
Hello. Hello, good afternoon. I am a student from University of Asia and the Pacific. I am not a tech person. I am a humanities student. So I'm mostly exposed to arts, literature, history. And for me, I was curious because a lot of conversations that I'm exposed to about AI are from fiction, science fiction. And there are a lot of examples about the dangers of AI and technology, such as, let's say, Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury or 1984 by George Orwell. So with all of these fiction and media, even nowadays, where it's very AI pessimistic or even AI and tech fearful, how would you address this perception of AI and technology, especially with all of the potentials that you guys were talking about?
Yeah. For this question, I would like Anna to answer it because she started her career as a journalist, DevCom graduate, worked with the government, and now is doing a lot of coding.
Yeah, no. I'm also very, very scared of what AI can do. That's why I'm a tech agnostic. I feel that it can be very dangerous because as Prof. Chris tells you, it embeds whatever biases you currently have in our system. So you have a bias against women, it's in the system. That's why when they talk about presidents, they talk about male presidents, and when they talk about laundry women, they talk about female laundry women. Because this is a bias that's inherent in our society, and we are feeding them data that uses this kind of bias also. And that is why it's scarier. A lot of people think that once they fire people in exchange of AI employees, but what they're not prepared for is for the next set of AI edition, wherein AI replicating entire businesses and AI replicating institutions. And then we ask ourselves, are we really creating AI for humans, or are we, creating our own weapons of destruction? So, and that is the reason why I think that there should not be a monopoly insofar as artificial intelligence is concerned.
Thank you for that answer, Anna. Very good. Maybe we collect 3 questions, and I will ask the panelists to answer. Okay, an online question. Let me just read this. Some countries integrate new technologies like AI faster than others, like Singapore and Japan. What are the methods they implemented to easily and quickly integrate it at their own existing system? Can we use these methods in the Philippines to replicate their success? And what adjustments can we do? Anyone who would like to answer this question?
Well, they have an AI infrastructure.
They can buy expensive machines, yes.
So the GPUs are already there. And the AI infrastructure is shared by their citizens. And that is the reason why there's a lot of incentives. There are talent visas in Singapore. If you're an AI practitioner, you can easily open a company within 15 minutes in Singapore. That's how fast it is, even if you are a foreigner. There's a lot of opportunity insofar as talent acquisition is concerned, and I think that spells out a lot of difference. I mean, it's very good that AIM now has an master's in artificial intelligence because now it pushes some boundaries insofar as our capacity is concerned in the country.
Thank you for that, Anna May. Maybe questions from the audience? Three. Let's collect three, sir. Maybe the one. Let's collect three, and then in the next 3 minutes, we will be closing this discussion.
Given that this forum has an Asian character, and in the morning we heard about opportunity for greater ASEAN integration, and somebody talked about data centers in the Philippines and challenges, etc. What is the opportunity that the panel sees, if any, in looking at cross-border, ASEAN cross-border data sharing and common data infrastructure?
Thank you for that. Maybe two more questions, and then I'll throw this to the panel altogether. So lots of raised hand. Unfortunately, we will not be able to serve you all.
Now, I have a two-part question. One of
Maybe
them is,
just one part.
Okay. Well, one of them is it's connected. So how do we democratize the data that we feed into AI, and also the usage of AI that we put it in the hands of people who need it most, like farmers and fisher folk? And then the second is, well, the session is called Racing with AI. What are we racing towards, and how do we prevent AI from becoming the next arms race?
That will be my last question. So keep that in mind. Maybe they don't have to answer that now. And maybe one last question, and I will ask the panel to answer whatever they feel they want to answer.
I'm an engineering student from TUP, Technological University of the Philippines. So with AI now capable of creating innovations, designs, and even art, how can we define authenticity and ownership? Who truly holds the patent or credit when innovation is generated with an AI?
Okay, thank you for those three questions. Answer whichever is your favorite question to answer.
I didn't understand anything
Ah.
from where we are.
Uh-huh.
It wasn't very clear.
So, first question is on ASEAN border. Is there anything that we can harness together in the ASEAN context? Opportunities that will be uniquely ours. And then the other question will be, I suppose especially this is true for artists and all. Now that AI can create arts and all these things, are there anything now that will prevent you from any notes on that component?
I can take the farmer
four
question.
questions about farmers.
I think I would respond to it by thinking more of how can we, you said about democratizing AI. So to me, it's more about how do we give, the access to me could be as a government or as a country, how can we actually put the right investments and make, because I believe we have access to technology. I think it's a matter of investing, putting in the right, I would say, effort and energy to build the systems, right? Making sure that, for instance, access to farmers or to other groups. I think it's just a matter of someone or some group putting in the right efforts to build the right system, making sure that the data is there to help them to get access. So I think and it's not just about AI, I think it's about the broader, digital solutions, right, to help them. And I know that there are already some solutions that are out there. I think AI can enhance that as well. So to me, it's more of making sure there's the right focus for that.
The problem, though, sometimes is adoption, because farmers in the Philippines, in the average, they only own 2 hectares. And if you use AI and technology, it doesn't matter, because you can probably reduce a 2-month work to 2 days. But what will they be doing in 2 months minus 2 days? What will you have are just obese farmers. And this is among the things that actually NS Raul are actually working on, collective effort on this component. And sir, on the Asian integration, maybe I'll just add that the most important probably is to create a ChatGPT sort of thing that will serve the context of the ASEAN country. Ma'am Anna, you want to add more?
Insofar as democratization of AI is concerned, I think language plays a very big factor. Because if we look at the general population, there are only 18.1% of English speakers, and yet 95% of AI resources are actually being used to train AI models in English and Mandarin. And I guess this is a question of whether or how we can work together in an ASEAN framework, because a lot of our ASEAN neighbors are actually developing their own AI capacity already. Singapore, Indonesia, there's a big push on artificial intelligence systems. And how do we start from the very beginning, from labeling data and from digitizing existing corporas into making sure that our oral traditions are in written form? And this makes the AI, I think, more accessible to everyone who first doesn't speak in English, and to number two, allow them to integrate this into the curriculum. I was so surprised when I learned that in elementary schools, in public schools in United Kingdom, they are already taught coding. And so I was amazed at how different the curriculum is when you compare it here.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Anna. So we're just less than a minute now. So to conclude, I would like to ask each of you one final question, and this is related to the question that was asked a while ago. And let's leave the audience with something to remember. When the finish line keeps moving faster than what we can run, when the finish line keeps moving faster than we can run, what does it really mean to win the race for AI? Mike?
Well, to me, as a tech, what was that? Optimist. I would say there is no finish line. To me, it's always going to be a constant reinvention, continuous innovation. I mean, we've seen this, I would say, if you take a look at the technology industry, right? Like,
One
from
sentence, Mike.
computers to the mobile era to digital, right? Everything, the cost is going down. It's becoming more accessible. I think AI is going to be the same. At some point, there's going to be a new wave of technologies, right? So to me, there's always going to be innovation in this space. And it's upon us to prepare ourselves, prepare the next generation to adopt it, and make sure that we are also ready for that. So just be open to the new technologies.
Thank you for that, Mike. Anna?
I think that when you talk about AI race, it's not just a single race. There are multiple fronts and multiple standards and multiple objectives. And so you just have to keep on running and do not give up and just continue developing your own AI capacity.
Thank you so much, Anna. And Enes Raul, one sentence. Not one, parang.
I think that we have to learn to walk before we run. And learning to walk before we run means feeding our children enough so that they go to school properly and they don't get stunted. We shouldn't think too far. But confronting stunting is actually a way of starting towards that goal. And for example, the 100 people who were employed by Metro Pacific in Farm Fresh will probably go to UP and will probably learn computing. I hope that that's before they become passé. But we have to encourage these for them to start the process even. We cannot think too far into the future when our present is so dysfunctional. So I think that the investments of MVP in Farm Fresh is itself a start of something. It might not be AI, but it's a start of learning how to walk with AI.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Enes Raul. So what we have seen in this forum is that this is not the race for AI is not about technology. It's about trust, ethics, and courage. And AI is both a mirror and a magnifier. It mirrors the data that we put it into and magnify our choices. So whether it will benefit us or it will just increase inequality, this is not for AI or the intelligent machines to decide, but for the wisdom of our leaders, whatever that wisdom is. So thank you again, our distinguished panels, and thank you for listening with us.
Thank you very much to our panelists, Dr. Raul Fabella, Ms. Mae Yu Lamentillo, and Mr. Mike Lau, as well as to our moderator, Dr. Christopher Monterola.